Mr. Drew and his Animals Too is an animal rescue and rehabilitation center in Lewiston. Visitors are welcome, and Mr. Drew also travels all over the state educating kids and adults about all kinds of animals. He's back with us on 207. Great to have you here. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
The theme for today, Maine amphibians.
Maine amphibians, yes. Right now we're coming up in April. We have our first spring rains that come. It's the first warm rains we have. That's what we call the big night. It sounds like an event that people would want to go out to, and you can.
I need a ticket?
You can. And the state actually does a promotion thing about it. You can look it up on the Inland Fisheries and Wildlife website regarding the big night, and it's keeping track of Maine amphibians. That's the time they're coming out to breed. They're crossing roads in large numbers and getting to their vernal pools and such to lay their eggs.
So people should watch out for them. Now, you've brought 4 different ones today. Where do you want to begin?
Well, we can start off with this little guy here. He's more common in the summertime, and you can see how he's perfectly camouflaged. He blends in with the lichen that would be on this little stump here. And this is called the gray tree frog. And the gray tree frog comes out, mainly you'll hear them calling all summer long, and you can actually learn their calls. If they're angry or if they're trying to attract a mate. And a lot of people mistake them for birds. They have a very high trill voice.
Wow.
And so it sounds like a bird. And a lot of people send me these videos saying that. What bird is this?
Can you
it's
do that
nighttime. Probably not, but it's more like a so and you hear them usually in the hot summer nights. It's very, very noticeable.
Wow. And when he was on the side there, he really blends right in.
Yeah,
you
he
can
blends
barely
in.
see
yeah,
him.
He's perfectly camouflaged, but he also, the inner legs have these bright yellow markings. So if a bird approaches too close or an animal approaches too close, he'll jump flashing those yellow legs.
Oh.
And it'll startle off the animal enough that, like, what was that?
Yeah.
And the frog can then go hide someplace else.
Wow.
What have you got here?
Well, up here we have what we call the yellow spotted salamander. Maine has 9 species of salamanders, and some of them are endangered. This one here is fairly common, but people don't see them too often because they're also considered a mole salamander, meaning they burrow underground. They're one of the first amphibians to come out in April, and a lot of times you'll see their egg mass and people will think it's a frog egg, and there's a difference between frog eggs and salamander eggs. Frog eggs are individual little eggs stuck to a branch, where the salamander egg is stuck to a branch, but it's individual eggs within a gelatinous mass. Oh. So if you see a ball of goo with eggs inside, that's a salamander egg, and it's usually theirs. They'll come out where the water might be 40 degrees and they'll be breeding. So.
Oh, wow. All right, so if you see it, belongs to this guy right here. He's kind of cute, little spots.
Yeah, it's a little lizard. We don't have any lizards in Maine. We don't have any reptiles. These are amphibians, so they have to lay their eggs in water, and they need to keep their bodies moist, so they're constantly near wet areas or wooded areas that have some humidity and levels like that.
Tell us about this one down at the bottom.
Well, down below is an American toad. He is very common here in Maine. Many people will catch an American toad. It might pee on them. That's what they do for defense. But they're also one of Maine's poisonous toads, or poisonous frogs. They have these bufotoxins, these glands on their heads that produce a toxin. So sometimes someone's dog might go and grab one and they'll start frothing at the mouth. Oh, it's usually not fatal, but it will ruin the dog's day, and he'll just be foaming at the mouth and rubbing it everywhere. Wow. But if that does happen, you should probably contact a vet. They'll give you ideas of how to flush it out. As long as he doesn't eat it, should be fine. And this is one of the reasons why the fairy tale Princess and the Frog was actually meant to teach children not to kiss frogs, because some frogs are toxic.
All right, let's move on to what is clearly the most spectacular of the 4 creatures that you brought in here.
Yes.
Sam, bring in that mug so that people can see the comparison of just how big this is, and what is it, Drew?
This is the American bullfrog. It is Maine's largest frog. This is Mr. Froggo, and he was actually hit by a car, or he was found on the side of the road as a car went by. He probably bounced off the tire, and his back legs don't function properly, so he cannot be released to the wild. He would never survive. But at our center, he eats very well, and we're very fortunate because in the morning hours they come in and he'll be croaking. He'll have that deep barrel sound that's like a rum, 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 and a lot of times my employees will be like, what's that? It's like, that's the frog, isn't that cool? And so he's very happy because he's croaking. Usually if they're not, they'll be quiet.
Normally when you're with us, we handle the animals and you have them in your hands. Sometimes we have them in our hands. Today you're not doing that. Why?
Yes, I have these gloves on because I was moving particularly this guy. Frogs, or amphibians as a whole, they absorb everything into their skin. And 43% of the world population of amphibians is facing extinction right now for 4 reasons. One is habitat loss. We're taking away their vernal pools, pollution, because that's what we do. And there's 2 diseases going around. One's called the ranavirus, which is affecting the frogs, and then there's one called Chitter's disease. It's a fungus, and it's affecting all amphibians. And both are caused because humans have released exotic pets into the wild, spreading it to, and Maine is trying to be very proactive against preventing this. So these 4 things are all human-based. And so I use gloves when I'm handling my amphibians, and when we do our shows, we don't let kids, a lot of kids, they want to. And I try to explain to them that, you know, if you're going to go out catch frogs, that's fine, but make sure your hands are clean. Because if you have sunscreen or bug spray or anything on your hands, they absorb that. And you might let them go, but they could end up dying later on. They're very sensitive species. Scientists call them an indicator species.
Can I turn this around? I think he's on camera 6, right, Adrian? We'll get a nice close-up of this guy.
Well, look at him.
He's a fascinating creature. Everyone
He's
who's walked into
huge.
the studio this morning is amazed by this frog because he is so big. But this is what animals do, is they fascinate us, and we want to learn more, and with luck, we need to protect them. Not with luck, we need to protect
We
them.
do. We are at a critical point for a lot of this, and it's hopefully me getting out to the kids and stuff that they'll grow to be those conservationists that'll help protect things.
That's why we love to have you here. Mr. Drew and his animals too, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for
More
having me.
information on Mr. Drew and his animals too on the 207 section of our website. Stick around, we'll be right back.